Good evening, everyone. So it's an honor to introduce Mr. Shravan Gupta. Mr. Shravan has been involved in the tourism and hospitality industry for over 20 years. He then worked on setting up Kriya Ventures and building up YOURS, which is a business offering fractional ownership of luxury second homes. We are honored to have you, Mr. Shravan, on board here. We welcome you. Please join us. Thank you.
So this is where my story begins. Shivaji Ganeshan, MGR, Jayalalitha, names some of you may have heard. A lot of you are very young, you may not have heard of those names, but they were the stars of 60s Tamil cinema. And my story starts in the city which was then known as Madras. Warm, muggy day, Madras 1969. A young man who was working as a pharmaceutical salesman sees something interesting in the newspaper that day. It's an ad for a sales executive position at Cathay Pacific Airways, international airline. He's been a salesman for a couple of years, seemed like a huge opportunity. He puts in his application, and as fortune would have it, he gets the job. So this was the second life-changing moment in his life in just a couple of years. 2 years earlier, he and his wife had left Bangalore to move to Madras because their parents opposed their marriage. And now he had a job in an international airline. A few years later, he would go on to start one of South India's first travel agencies in 1977. And this, friends, is the story of my parents. And I thought this evening I will share with you a few such stories and the lessons that I've learned along the way. So cut now to 2003. I have joined the travel business, been a couple of years learning the ropes from my father. And he is diagnosed with a strain of cancer and passes away within a couple of months of this diagnosis. Absolutely shattering moment for me personally. And while obviously I'm dealing with my grief, I have to also pay attention to the business that he has built. By 2003, the travel agency has grown and he has built a fairly sizable company doing a business of about 50 crores. There were two steps that I took at that time that I feel made a huge difference. The first was to get the confidence of my team that were there with me, to make sure that they stand by me during this transition and difficult phase. Two, and this was something a mentor of mine told me. He said, go and meet as many customers as you can personally and assure them of business continuity. So I spent the next few months meeting as many customers I could. This not just gave the confidence to them that yes, business was usual, but also helped me develop a rapport and understanding of client needs. So having stabilized this business over the next couple of years, I had to decide what I want to do next. You know, the travel business has always been and is still highly competitive and extremely fragmented. There are so many players. In fact, the really large players in India, even today, don't control more than 5 or 6% of the entire industry. So how does one stand out from the herd? And this is the time when online travel agencies were slowly beginning to make their presence felt. OTAs, or online travel agents, today it's the norm, but in 2004, 5, 6, it was a new phenomenon. One such online company was Travel Guru. Don't think it exists anymore, but Travel Guru had all the technology, had all the front end, but they lacked industry knowledge, trade knowledge, and they lacked the ability to fulfill the needs of their clients. Therefore, they approached us and wanted to partner with us to be a fulfillment partner. Let's park that aside. Around the same time, a large media group in India, Times of India, which had just started a very interesting barter program with companies that wanted to grow their brands. They would take equity in barter for giving media space in their many publications. Bennett Coleman approached us. So now suddenly these two people have approached us, makes me wonder and made me broaden my horizons as to what the opportunities were in the travel space. Long story short, we didn't partner with Travel Guru, we did go ahead with Bennett Coleman. And for the next 10 years, what we did was to expand the travel business while sticking to some basic principles which till today I treasure. So over the next 10 years or so, we consistently and patiently built the travel business across the country. We grew to about 20 cities in India and Sri Lanka and various verticals. But I will share a couple of, again, two or three anecdotes that may be of help to all of you. While growing the business, obviously we know that we need a strong team. But how does a small travel agency from Bangalore attract the best talent from across the country? And like Amit Rati very nicely said, entrepreneurs are all salespeople first. We are always selling either to our customers, to investors, to our stakeholders, and to prospective employees. So I put on my sales hat and tried to bring in some talent from across the country. Fortunately, a few of them believed in what we were doing and joined us. And then we started the journey of growth, both organic and inorganic. At this moment, I'll share a couple of inorganic stories. One was an acquisition we did in Goa of a company called Splendor Holidays. They were specialists in operating charters into India. So they would operate charter tours into Goa and Kerala, and all their clients came from UK, Russia, Scandinavian countries, and so on. What was very interesting, and this will again relate to an episode I will share later, is that this was very much like an Indian wedding, right? There was courtship, there was the engagement, the marriage, the honeymoon, which we actually went to London, and no, not with my wife, with the owner of Splendor Holidays. And then, of course, the reality strikes. But the beauty of this marriage was that we both understood each other, and the gentleman who used to own Splendor continued to work with us and helped us build this organization further. So now everything is going well. The company has grown. We are about 450 people strong across India and Sri Lanka. And one afternoon, I get a call from an old acquaintance. We haven't been in touch for about 5 or 6 years. He messages me and says, "Hey, do you think we could catch up for lunch one of these days?" He has just taken over as the country head of a flight center. And Flight Center is one of the world's largest travel companies, listed in Australia, operating in about 35-40 countries across the world. So I was very excited and I was quite curious to see what the meeting was all about. So we met for lunch, and as we were having our lunch, the gentleman pops a question. He says, "Hey Shravan, would you be open to selling your business?" I was taken aback. All these years we've been trying to build the business. We have acquired a few companies. We are growing quite well. And now suddenly this question, To be honest, I didn't know, I hadn't thought about it. I told him, listen, awesome, let's explore it, but give me some time to think about it, right? So those conversations go on for a while and they make an absolutely amazing offer. So on one side is the economics. Obviously its valuation looks good, worth the effort that's gone in over the last 15, 20 years. But what's more important is the emotional parts that one has to think about. The business that my father started, the family is involved. This is the only thing we've been doing for the last 17 or 18 years. Do I know anything else? If somebody is seeing an opportunity here, is there an opportunity we are missing? Is there something we can do ourselves? These were the dilemmas in my mind. And I'm not going to give answers today, but I'm just going to share experiences and the questions that went on in my head, because answers are different for every individual. And of course, we decided to go ahead primarily because the industry was at a stage where you needed very deep pockets to really expand. We felt we had reached a size beyond which to go. We had to look for external funding and we were not comfortable with that. And therefore we decided to partner and sell our business to Flight Centre. So when the whole deal happened and the integration, Times of India ranked the combined business as the third largest in the country. I stayed on for a couple of years. Of course, the big task was integrating the two businesses. It was a roller coaster ride for 2 years. A lot of good things, but a lot of painful things, because when two companies come together, there's obviously a lot of challenges, especially to do with the people who have been with you over the years. And once I completed the transition, I decided to take a break and went on a sabbatical. And I'm sharing pictures mostly taken by me. So this is a sabbatical pic. Yeah. That's what I was doing most of the time for 3 years. And again, resonate a lot with what Amit just said. I learned a new language. I learned many new things. And I was fortunate enough to have some of my colleagues from my previous business join me and help me set up a family office. We invested in some very interesting ventures in education, travel tech, hospitality, children's gymnastics, and so on and so forth. I was taking it easy. That was me most of the time, afternoon naps and so on. But there was something missing. I was feeling a little incomplete. It was exactly at this time that a friend of mine, Sudeep, who is here in the audience, approached me with a very unique and exciting proposition. It was to build a business focused on fractional ownership of luxury holiday homes. Absolutely new category, no one had thought about it. Yes, it was there in the West, not that something we invented, but the more the two of us thought about it, the more excited we got. And we were very convinced that probably this is a business that we want to get into. So I'd taken a 3-year break. I didn't want to rush into anything new, but this seemed like made a lot of sense and I was really excited about it. And Bill Gross, who runs Idea Lab, has done a study on the 5 pillars on which startups succeed. And he's actually studied to see which of these 5 are key in a startup success. Yeah. So there's obviously the idea, there's the team, there's the business model, there's funding, and there's timing, right? And like a lot of you, I thought it could be team, idea, it could be funding for some businesses. But strangely, in the research that was done, it showed that the number 1 factor that helped startups succeed was timing. So Airbnb came at the right time, Uber came at the right time. Has yours that we have started come at the right time? I don't know, only time will tell. But we are putting in all our efforts to try and make sure that this is a success. So having said that, friends, I'd just like to leave you with the last video, and later on I'm available for any Q&A. Thank you, and I look forward to catch up with all of you over the evening. Yeah.